back to LZ Rooster. I'm your host, Papa Amo, and today we have an episode we're going to talk about accountability. So, what is accountability? Accountability is nothing else than holding someone responsible for something. All right? It is a vital item to the success of the team and your organization. Therefore, we must practice holding others accountable constantly and not use accountability only as a tool for a punishment. Okay? So when we talk about accountability, there are two things that you must consider. The first is self-accountability, right? So you hold yourself to a higher standard, you accept the responsibility for your actions, and know how your choices and your personal life may have implications in not just your side, but also on the organization. Secondly, it is not to be mistaken accountability for negative punishment. It is not a way to punish, but rather to learn from shortfalls or even mistakes and build upon those mistakes to allow the individual for growth and the team's success, but ultimately the organization's success. All right? As we talk about success, we must talk about that structure that goes into the line of being a professional. So the structure of being a professional must encompass the desires and outcomes. Accountability needs to happen at all levels. You don't have to be best friends with those you work with. But in order to lead, you must set those boundaries and allow criticism to be constructive, and knowing that there is a structure will help you develop others throughout your leader's approach. So what do I mean by that? You don't want to be friends with the ones you work with is not what I mean by don't become friends with those you work with. What I mean by that is that you cannot be afraid to speak up. Sometimes when we create those friendships at work through the hardships, through everything that is going on that makes you a better team, a better leader, a better individual, you create a bond that those coworkers become part of your life. It becomes a family almost. Well, in terms of accountability, the person that you will hold accountable the most will be yourself. And the reason I say that is because now it's going to become harder for you mentally to hold accountable those peers and even those subordinates because of how much time you are spending together. So you might have heard before, the hardest person to correct are your peers. And the reason for that is the time you spent together and the time you know you will spend together throughout your experience in the team, in the organization, or even as a leader, is going to remain in your subconscious. But accountability, the structure of accountability, must be kept in line with the hierarchy of that organization. What do I mean by that? I mean that when you look into the hierarchy of the organization, it is okay to look not just up into what is going on with the bigger picture, but you must also look up to your leaders and see how they are holding themselves accountable. In terms of team building and actually engaging with the dynamic of your organization, it is okay for you as a bottom level refinement team member talk to your mid-level manager and maybe what accountability seems to look like from your perspective. All right, maybe they are preaching one thing, but from your side of the picture, from your perspective, it is not looking like so. And that is okay. Now, how you frame that conversation is how successful that conversation will go. Maybe you are not as comfortable going to your superior and telling them that they are jacked up. All right? And that is may not be the correct way to go about it. However, it must be done in order to correct that deficiency or maybe shortfall from that leader. It is okay to go up to your leadership and say, this is not right for X, Y, Z. That allows you to not just understand the bigger picture and allow your leaders to see that you are engaged at a multitude of levels in the organization, but also show them and teach your superiors that you are also watching. Why is this important? If you as a leader are engaged and you are watching and you are holding those leaders of yours accountable, or at least having those hard conversations, you're also letting them know that your subordinates are also watching. By your subordinates watching and you creating awareness between you and your leadership, you allow all sides of the spectrum to come together and create that self-awareness needed at every individual level. All right? Once you find that mutual ground and you engage in this conversation, it will allow you to not only hold the others accountable under you or even your peers, but also create that boundary and know that you can also talk to your leaders about accountability and engage in that other boundary for you to hold them accountable for something else. You cannot be afraid. It is going to happen and it is going to be awkward at first. But with more experience and how you word and how you approach those superiors, your peers, or your subordinates will create that self-awareness that allows you to actually engage in those conversations that may be harder at times. Now, let's say you do not engage in that hard conversation. You choose to maybe see the problem and look the other way because it is too hard for you to maybe engage in that hard conversation with your leadership. Maybe it is too hard to talk to your peers because you have known them for so long, or even your subordinates. That is what we call the silent endorsement. A silent endorsement is nothing else than you looking the other way and not engaging with the problem at hand. By doing so, you are allowing the problem to remain a problem, and you're allowing yourself to become a part of that problem and not the solution. As leaders, we must have the mental fortitude and the courage to step up and see things for what they are. Okay? Maybe this looks like, some equipment may not be able to leave the office. And you see a coworker taking equipment to continue work at home or whatever excuse they may have for the system, right? By you looking the other way, you're allowing that to become the norm. That becomes the norm. That coworker is going to probably end up in a leadership position later down the road. And not being corrected is going to become something that is okay with that person. Now, when that person is in a position of leadership, his or her subordinates will end up knowing or thinking that they can take equipment home for whatever reason as long as they are completing a job. Later, that can become a problem if the organization calls out for an equipment verification that is now not available, or if there is some sort of security protocol and they see that person taking the equipment home, they can get in a large amount of trouble. Your answer cannot be, well, I didn't know better. You as a leader need to be in that position where you understand what protocol looks like. You need to understand what right versus wrong looks like. And you need to be that enforcer that allows your organization to grow and thrive because of the right decisions being made. As a silent endorser, you are allowing the problem to become the norm. When that problem becomes the norm, your organization is just a ticking time bomb to begin that spiral effect downward. Okay? Once you engage with your teams, you allow everything to be on the table. Okay? You explain your left and right lateral limits. You allow them to understand what right looks like. You allow them to know and give them examples of what wrong looks like. So that when, if in question, they have any position of should I or should I not do that, they know they can at least turn to you and ask the question. You're creating that mutual ground because accountability at first has become a part of your daily routine. They know they can come to you for questions. They know they can come to you and verify X, Y, or Z. And that is okay because now you're creating a positive environment where they are thriving, they are learning, they are being challenged. And with the accountability piece is not being held negatively against them. It's being used as a learning tool for growth. And that ultimately is what you want in your organization. If you don't work at the organization level, you work with a team. You still work with somebody, under somebody, or for somebody. Even if you're an entrepreneur, you work for yourself. And that is okay. But if you don't build that self-accountability, even for yourself, you can end up becoming that silent endorser for you, your company, your team. And that would be a very negative impact. A silent endorser is something that we, as leaders, must watch out for and ensure that our subordinates at the lowest level understand and know that they are going to feel uncomfortable at first. Not because it's wrong, but because it's unpopular. A lot of issues today in organizations and small teams are moving away from the popular decision. I'm not going to do X, Y, Z because they're not going to like me. I'm not going to do X, Y, or Z because I'm going to become the bad guy. It's not about becoming the bad guy. And at the end of the day, if you do become the bad guy, if you do become unwanted or unliked by somebody, maybe that person is not really your friend, or maybe that person is not really understanding the reason and the message, the power behind your decision. At the end of the day, as long as you are doing the right thing and you are holding the accountability piece for the right reasons and not as a tool for punishment, you will be followed by those who want to follow you. You will be followed and respected as a leader because of your consistency and your accountability with others for the right thing. At the end of the day, if you are liked or not as a leader, that would be okay. However, it must be used smartly, and it's a skill that must be developed over time. I hope that you learned something from this episode, and I hope to see you all again. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe to the channel, and we hope to see you again. Thank you.